I'll say it again. 4,500 Russian occupiers have been killed.
This escalating violence, which is resulting in civilian deaths, including children, is totally unacceptable.
NATO is not a threat for Russia. This war was started by Russia, and Putin can stop this war anytime.
Do not believe your commanders. Do not believe your propagandists. Simply save your own lives. Leave.
Enough is enough.
Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us. We begin the day with the ongoing battle for Ukraine. Fighting between Russian and Ukrainian forces has been bitter and brutal, taking place in heavily populated civilian areas. The number of people dying is mounting. Now, as the Ukrainian army does its best to hold off the Russian attackers, normal people are helping to resist the offensive in any way they can. Viral videos show people across Ukraine stopping Russian tanks in their tracks and angrily confronting soldiers. Now, in a town close to the border with Russia, a group of Ukrainians brought the Russian advance to a grinding halt. This footage shows hundreds of unarmed people walking toward an armored column. The Russian soldiers had stopped to ask for directions when they found themselves surrounded by locals. Now, that is just one of several instances of Ukrainian civilians facing down Russian tanks. Others are taking up arms to defend their cities. Many have never fired a gun in their lives.
We've already started issuing arms. To protect our land, we will issue them to anyone who's willing to take them, to anyone who's ready to protect our sovereignty. There are people with military experience, war veterans, and then there are people who've swapped their pens and keyboards for guns.
At first, we were scared, really scared. But now we are ready to fight. And fight like hell. So
I want to fight. I want to live on my earth, in my Ukraine, in my peaceful Ukraine.
We are doing this because someone has to do it. We are making as many Molotov cocktails as we are asked by territorial defense forces, and we will do it until we win.
Let's cross now to Nick Connolly, our correspondent who has been reporting from Western Ukraine. If you've been with us, you know he's been covering this conflict tirelessly. And Nick, we've just seen that footage of ordinary Ukrainians blocking advancing tanks and soldiers. How widespread is this kind of behavior in Ukraine?
Well, if you look at the geography, Claire, of all these videos popping up on social media, it seems to be pretty widespread. That was in Ukraine's far north on the Russian border, as you mentioned. There's another video that's been doing the rounds from Kherson region near annexed Crimea, where you have an older man walking up to two very heavily armed Russian soldiers who are just guarding what looks to be a bridge or some other kind of infrastructure. And he starts ranting at them, and he tells them that they are not wanted here, that this is not where anyone wants to see them, that they should go home, this is not their land, and it's none of their business what happens in Ukraine. And then at the end of his onslaught, he tells them, and they have no ability to talk back, they're seemingly shocked by his brazenness. He tells them that I am ethnically Russian, but I'm a citizen of Ukraine, and I don't want Russia here in Ukraine. And this is something we see time and time again.
Yeah, Nick, those have certainly made for good viral videos, but I want to ask you, how helpful is this actually in stopping Russia's advance?
Well, I think it is actually doing a lot to undermine the morale of those Russian soldiers, many of whom were not really ever, told why they're coming here. We've heard from the Russian leadership they want to demilitarize and denazify, as they put it, Ukraine. But I don't think anyone has ever made any effort to explain that to ordinary Russian soldiers, what they're doing here. And there are lots of instances of Russian soldiers abandoning their tanks that have run out of petrol, that have run out of other supplies, or where they've had their tires shot at. And you do get a sense that many of these, especially very young recruits, have no clue why they're here, realize that they're actually going to face staunch resistance, where they were probably told by their commanders that they would be met, if not with flowers, but by a population that was broadly happy to see them. So I think that is quite an important thing. And we've also seen the Ukrainians now going into the offensive, targeting Russians on social media, targeting soldiers who are still in Russia, targeting their families, or basically wider Russian society, to basically make the price of them coming here clear to them.
And for the Ukrainian civilians on the battle lines, I mean, where are their weapons coming from? Does Ukraine have enough weapons to equip them and enough time to train them?
I mean, it depends what kind of weapon system we're talking about. I mean, the government here has handed out tens of thousands of rifles, of AK-47s, the kind of basic equipment that was here and that was available in large supply in government storage units. Then obviously there is the other kind of weaponry that's coming in now from Ukraine's international partners, the Stinger anti-aircraft missiles, the Javelin anti-tank missiles. There is talk here in Ukraine that if the military comes under more pressure, if military units are basically dispersed by a Russian onslaught, that those kind of things that can be operated by a single person, that can be carried on a shoulder, that they will be handed out to people to take home and to basically wage a guerrilla campaign against the Russian troops in Ukraine.
Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has also directed an appeal for more soldiers to the rest of the world. I want to play you some of what he said, and then we'll come back to you here, Nick.
All those from abroad who can defend Ukraine, do it purposefully, unitedly and continuously. All friends of Ukraine who want to join the defense, come, we will give you weapons. All the details of how to implement this will be announced in the near future. Glory to all those who defend Ukraine today. You are heroes.
So foreign fighters also being invited to join in. Do we know how many have responded to the call?
I think for now it's pretty difficult to tell. We heard today that the French Foreign Legion was going to allow its Ukrainian members to come back to their homeland to fight. And there certainly seems to be a big buzz around this on social media. It has to be said, this isn't totally new. There are foreigners fighting in Donbass. They have been since 2014 on the side of Ukraine. Lots of Americans, lots of Western Europeans. A smaller number, has to be said, of foreigners also fighting on the other side for those Russian-backed separatists. But I think there is a real hope here in Ukraine that the support and that the awareness of this conflict is growing, that finally people in Western Europe, in North America, are taking notice of what's going on in Ukraine, that finally they feel like the rest of the world is seeing Russia's behavior towards Ukraine, and more broadly the same way they have. I think for a long time they felt like they were just not heard, not listened to and not believed, and that now with this attack on Ukraine in the middle of the night with no warning, they feel like the rest of the world is finally getting it, and they hope, apart from weapons, apart from sanctions, apart from money, to also have that kind of personal on the ground support, even if we know that NATO is not going to send troops in official capacity, but at least they can hope that some people with military experience of fighting in NATO trained armies would add significantly to their ability to defend themselves.
Our correspondent Nick Connolly in Western Ukraine, thank you so much for that update.